One of the things that I want you to get into the mindset of now at the end of English 111 is that you're no longer just a student in Unit 4 who's writing things that they're interested in. You are turning into a scholar, and that's something I stress in English 112 with my students, is that however you feel about writing, however you feel about being a college student, whether you were an early college student, whether you're a college student who's kind of following the path that is the standard, I guess, you graduate from high school, go to college, or whether you're a college student who's coming back to college after some time away, I want you to think of yourself in this unit, and if you take my English 112 class, I want you to think of yourself as a scholar who is doing important work, because anytime we share ideas and we write succinctly and clearly about those ideas, we're doing important work. That's really important, and that's something that in the age of social media, when we just share quick emotions, we don't always get good ideas. So this is important. An annotated bibliography is a way for scholars to collect their thoughts on their research. The format of an annotated bibliography looks very different from an essay. It does have paragraphs, but it's organized slightly differently. Imagine if you had a works cited page and you had each one of your citations on that works cited page, but below each citation you had a paragraph, and in that paragraph you summarized the source that you had cited, and you explain or theorize or hypothesize how you might use that source in your final paper. That's an annotated bibliography. So why do scholars write annotated bibliographies? Obviously you are writing an annotated bibliography because I'm asking you to do it, because it's points and it's a part of your grade. But what about people who just do it because that's part of their research process? So imagine you are researching, and not just over the course of a couple of weeks, but imagine you're researching over the course of months or years or decades, and there are people out there that certainly do this. They're collecting so much information. Well, even in just researching over the matter of weeks, you might come across an article and read halfway through it and say, you know what, I think I read this 2 days ago. An annotated bibliography gives you the opportunity to collect every bit of research that you're reading. So whether that's an article or a book or what you're watching, a documentary or YouTube video or whatever, you cite it, you summarize it, and you say whether you're going to use it in your paper or not, and how you're going to use that in your paper. And if that's the case, then you have this collection of research you've done, and ideally you would never come across a situation where you had to go back and reread an article because you forgot what was in there, you didn't know if it was going to be helpful for you. Essentially, you're taking notes on the sources that you're reading, and I think that that's why they call it annotated, because writing down some notes. In our annotated bibliography, I'm going to ask you to do it in a very, very regulated and strictly formatted way, but annotated bibliographies can be anything that a researcher wants them to be, and if you choose to use this in your own research outside of this class, it doesn't have to look exactly like this. So there's more freedom than I'm giving you here. Alright, an annotated bibliography, like I said before, is structured differently than many of the assignments you've done, so I really want you to make sure you pay close attention to this section. I am telling you exactly how I want this to look. Exactly. Begin by putting your annotated bibliography, and I like to abbreviate. Begin your annotated bibliography by putting the document in basic MLA format. So think your headers, last name, page number, your name, instructor, class date. Then title your annotated bibliography the following: annotated bibliography and your topic. So then, of course, where you see the phrase your topic, I want you to replace that with the subject matter that you're researching. Below the title and all the way to the left side of the page, I want you to write a works cited citation for source number 1. Citation information can be found in your little seagull, and I'll link you to correct page numbers in the FYI section. And then I want you to use the hanging indent function to format those properly. Below the citation for source 1, you need to write exactly 6 sentences in paragraph form. Not 5 sentences, not 7 sentences, 6 sentences. I will count them. I will be looking for exactly what I'm asking for in this breakdown. So I'm telling you, I want 6 sentences. These are sentences, these are not sections. Each annotated bibliography citation should have only 6 sentences below it. It should look like a paragraph with the first line indented. In sentence 1, identify the author, title, type of source, so is it a scholarly article, an op-ed, a documentary, etc., and the year the source was published. In sentence form, sentence 2, summarize the main idea of the source. In one sentence, I need you to tell me what is the main idea. It's like giving me the source's thesis statement. In sentence 3, point out one major supporting detail from the source. In sentence 4, point out another major supporting detail from the source. In sentence 5, explain how you will use this source in a full essay on your topic. Again, we're just working on ensuring that we can do all of the processes of writing a research paper, but we're not actually going to write one. But this is part of the planning stages. So imagine you had to write a paper. How will you use this source in your essay? Is it something that you will argue against? Is it something that you will use to back up your argument? How are you going to use the source in your essay? Then I want you to elaborate on sentence 5. So elaborate. You get 1 extra sentence for this. Point to something specific from the text that you're going to use in your essay. Don't just write a quote, but tell me how you will use the content. Ideally, you won't quote at all, but if you do, that's okay. But you have to explain, I will use the quote in order to insert explanation. Okay. All right, on a new line, after the 6th sentence, the 6th sentence paragraph you just wrote, then you need to write the works cited citation for your second source. Below that, follow up doing sentences 1 through 6. So that's going to cover 2 sources so far. After you've written your paragraph for your second source, repeat with source 3. Citation, 6 sentence paragraph. Okay, here's an example. Now this is an example with just 1 source, so do not get confused. I'm not asking for only 1, I'm asking for 3. You've got your MLA format here. You've titled it Annotated Bibliography, and your topic is maybe something like nature versus nurture. Here is one of your sources. Okay. Here it is formatted in MLA format. This is the citation, and I'm going to do a little color coding here. So here's your citation in yellow. Remember, that's what I want you to do first. Write the works cited citation for source 1. Use the hanging indent format. Okay, we've got that. Then we have source number 1, and again, I'm just identifying, or I have sentence number 1, and I'm just identifying some of the publication information. So I'm going to write a sentence that looks like Superman and Me by Sherman Alexie is a personal narrative essay written in 1998. I've given the author, the title, the type of source I'm reading, and the year in which it was published. Okay. If you are looking at a source that does not have a publication date, you would say that instead of the year. You also just want to think about its credibility. It's certainly fine to have a credible source that doesn't have a year, but just include that in your evaluation of its credibility. Okay, so here is green, sentence number 1. Now in sentence number 2, I'm looking for a summary of the main idea of the sentence, or of the source. Oh my gosh, too many S words. In his essay, Alexie, this is his last name, I'm not calling him Sherman, I'm calling him by his last name. Alexie writes about his love for reading, where it came from, and how it has influenced his adult life. So this is one sentence, and this is the main idea of his personal narrative essay. My next sentence, sentence 3, I should point out a major supporting detail. So something that Alexi is writing about in his essay. He writes about his father's influence on his love for reading. Okay, there's one major thing that he's writing about. Now remember, the fourth sentence is another major detail. He also explains that his childhood experiences of feeling like an outsider have influenced his decisions to be a literacy sponsor for both willing and hesitant Indian youth. Okay, so there's another major detail from the source. Oh, those colors look way too similar. I'm going to change that. Try that. Okay. Point out my other. So that was sentence 4. All right, now in sentence 5, I'm moving on. I'm not summarizing anymore. I'm saying how I'm going to use this source in my essay, assuming I was going to write a major essay on it. In my essay, I will use, so here, note, it's perfectly fine to use the first person pronoun, I. In my essay, I will use Superman and me to support my belief that parents strongly influence our lives as both children and adults. Okay, so here I'm giving my reader, who's really myself, information of how I plan on using this source in my paper. And then remember, sentence 6, I wanted you guys to elaborate on sentence 5 by providing something specific, saying, how am I going to do this? So my sentence 5 says, here's my plan. Sentence 6 says, here's how I'm going to make that plan happen. I will use, I don't know which colors I've used already. Okay, I wrote specifically, I plan to use Alexi's love for reading with equal parts joy and desperation to talk about the various ways in which his parents evoked that joy and desperation and how this has influenced him. Okay, so if you've read this personal narrative essay, then that would make sense to you. If you haven't, it might not. But that's what I'm going to use in this personal narrative essay in order to use it to support my beliefs. Okay? So this is one example of your annotated bibliography. Okay, well, I think that covers everything I want to tell you regarding your annotated bibliography. If you have any questions, just let me know. If you have questions about the way that it's formatted, if it looks just like this, and then for second and third sources, you just repeat what you see here. But yeah, email me if you need me.